But here's the thing that's starting to get to me, and we mentioned this last night. Media are starting to demand, all right, who's your leaders? What are your goals? What are your politics? We want to talk to the leaders. An attempt to identify, and we had a caller last night, I forget who that was, Kathy, but he made a very succinct and salient point that once they can define, once the people out there at the microphones can define the politics or the leadership or what the goals are of this movement, then it can be marginalized. Then it can be, they can focus, they being the power structure, can focus around a particular demand and start to marginalize it and destroy it and eat it alive, and then the movement starts to fall apart. This is usually what happens. Think back. Over the past 30 or 40 years, the demonstrations, whether it was free speech movement all the way up to the anti-nuke movement, whatever it was, and think about how this tactic was employed. Okay, what's your objective? Well, our objective, the unspoken objective, was to stop the madness. The madness that was eating the country alive, this capitalist destruction that was going on. But the demonstrators would focus on one aspect, the nuclear industry. So then all of a sudden, we became the anti-nuke demonstrators, when in fact, the objective was much larger than that. I think these demonstrators have looked back over the history of demonstrations in this country and resistance in this country and have realized we cannot be identified with a particular objective, because once that happens, bingo, then we can be marginalized, we can be ridiculed, and the industry that media says we are targeting can then mount an offensive against us. What I'm talking about is what seems to be a furious attempt to do a couple of things here. First of all, identify the goals and objectives and the politics and the leadership of the Occupy Wall Street movement. Why that is so necessary, you can say, well, that's just part of the American experience. You know, who are the leaders? What's your goal? You know, everything has to be goal-oriented. There has to be somebody in charge, right? Okay, that's A. B, all of a sudden, the desire, the insistence of certain Democratic Party aligned organizations to get involved. Just one quick question, and that is, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a cynical bastard, but where were the union leadership? Where was the union leadership at the beginning of this? Where were the superstars of the Democratic Party who have so far deigned to show up in Lower Manhattan? Where were they at the beginning? In other words, let me turn around. Why has resistance to this capitalist monster that is eating this country alive, why has that resistance not shown up at the beginning with with union leadership? Why now? What is the objective here? Now, before I sound too paranoid, there are two questions for me, and that's what I'm talking about here. Are the union leaders now climbing aboard this Occupy Wall Street train because they are sympathetic and they want to see something happen, or are they trying to neutralize it? And that's the question that's been eating at me. And it started with this absolute insistence, first through the media. Who are your leaders? What are your objectives? And then the reporters, the editorial writers, the talking heads would answer their own question. Well, there is no leadership. Well, there doesn't seem to be a goal. When the goal is so obvious. And as WSWS.org points out, many of the groups involved in Wall Street demonstrations have echoed the position of the indignados of Spain and Greece, that there should be no politics and no leadership. Now, the call for no politics amounts to a rejection of a principled and coherent political alternative to bourgeois politics and the capitalist two-party system. That is, the call for no politics means no socialist politics. Right? In other words, as WSWS points out, it plays directly into the hands of the Democratic Party, which will move to fill the political vacuum. Be careful to the folks who are out there demonstrating, the folks who have decided that they've had enough, when in fact what they are saying, and they know this, nobody needs to identify this, not me, not you, not anybody. What they are saying is they have had enough of the capitalist system. Enough! Because that's what has been the destructive force that brought us to where we are. Can I get an objection to that? Can I get a coherent rejection of that statement? Anybody? It is predatory, global, neoliberal capitalism that has brought us to where we are. There's no argument there. If you still have any kind of brain power left, take a look at the past 60 years. Here we are. So without stating it, and I'm not trying to identify anybody's objective, but it is what it is. Take a look at this demonstration. Listen to what the people who are cornered by the TV cameras and the writers, how they're responding. Listen to what they're saying. So all of a sudden, there are certain interest groups, most of which are part of this, one way or the other, the corrupted two-party system in this country. And it goes way beyond J.P. Morgan Chase that made the big multi-million-dollar donation the other day to the New York City Police Department right before the demonstrations and the marches began. Any connection there? That's the obvious part. You know who your enemy is. But it's your friends you have to watch out for.